dreamer, inspired, empowered, believer, where dreams come alive and visions brought to life, building an empire for generations to come, discovering you in a whole new light, led into a purpose beyond you, beyond you, beyond you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dialogue. I am so excited about today's episode, and this by far will probably be one of my favorites. Not only do I get to sit down and dialogue with a sister, a friend, but this woman is also very powerful. Here to dialogue about her book, A Devotion to Freedom, 30+1, please, 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 welcome Christen O'Neal.
Thank you, Jessica.
You know, I just forgot that we don't have nobody in the audience to
right,
hand clap,
okay.
but that's
okay.
all right.
It's
that's
okay.
all right. They get it.
So
I'm just really excited about sitting down with you to discuss 31 plus or 30+1. I keep saying 31 plus.
Maybe that's like part 2.
Could be. All right. So we just really got to dig right into this because I have explained this to so many people. I think the concept is amazing. I think the fact that you took the book of Proverbs, since everyone really has a desire to be the Proverbs 31 woman. Everyone has the desire to be that, but with your devotion, you created an amazing concept, or God created a cool concept, gave it to you, and you're putting it out there to the masses to actually go in and get all of the wisdom and knowledge of Proverbs chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to really understand, like Proverbs 31 she didn't become that woman overnight.
Right. She did not just show up.
Yes, this was a process.
Right.
So tell me, how did you get the inspiration to do this?
Well, honestly, it was just that anytime you would hear anyone speaking about, women, and if you're going to be a great woman of God, you need to model after the Proverbs 31 woman. And while that's great, and you always want to have a benchmark, so to speak, or a standard that you want to try to live up to or live by, it can kind of be scary when you read, if you just say, hey, you want to be a great woman of God, go read Proverbs 31. And then it's like, oh, she rises early and she tends to the sheep and she got her own field and the kid is asleep and she's up cooking and she's sewing all of this expensive. Like, it can be a scary, thought, especially in this day and age where people are like, I don't even know how to sew, so where do I start? Right?
Where do you start?
So it was really from a place of having gone through many of, a Proverbs a day. And I realized that a lot of the terminology that it used to describe her it was interwoven through the first 30 chapters. And so I kind of literally one day, it was like, I don't really have this thing. Like, what is my thing? I don't know. And then literally I sat down. I was like, oh, Proverbs 30. It was really, the thought just came just like that. And I was like, honestly, she is who she is because of the first 30 chapters.
Wow. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and open. Now this is what I want to do. I'm going to go through this devotion, but I'm not going to give it all away because I do want everyone to go and purchase a copy of the book because it's great. It's awesome. But I want to start with the principle, which is chapter 1. You set a very strong foundation in this book to help us to understand what we're getting ourselves into. All right. So principle, we start with the Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Tell me why you decided to actually start this book off with that verse and giving us that principle.
Well, that chapter, the book of Proverbs is the tool. This is the number one handbook that I want to draw closer to God, or I want to know what does God think about this, or what does God say about that. a lot of times people will direct you to the book of Proverbs because it shows off the splendor of King Solomon's wisdom, right? And if you want to be great and you want to, show forth the glory of God, you need wisdom to do it, right?
Right.
And so I wanted to start off just kind of highlighting this is where we're starting. Wisdom is the principal thing. And above all you're getting, get an understanding. And so I just set out to say, this is what we're doing. Our goal, our mission on this journey together. Because I like to feel like I'm connecting with you.
Yeah.
I tried to write it in such a way that you know that I didn't write this book from a place of a Proverbs 31 woman who has arrived. I have not arrived.
You have not arrived.
I have
Neither
not.
have I. Neither have I.
And so I want my readers to feel like we're in this journey. This is a journey to freedom from the bondage of how do I become, or the fear of how do I become this Proverbs 31 woman. And so that was the tone I wanted to set was we are on a wisdom journey to get everything from God that he has from us as it pertains to our finances, as it pertains to our purity, as it
Wait, because you're moving ahead. You are moving ahead
Yeah,
because
yeah.
now I'm glad that you mentioned purity. And you said something. You said we want wisdom in every area of our lives and our finances. And when it comes to purity, now that was actually going through the book because I have so many pages. But the next topic that I wanted to talk about was chapter 5, purity. Now, I really believe that in our generation, everyone ties purity into abstaining from sex before marriage.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. But there is so much more to purity, and you actually do a phenomenal job with describing some things in our lives that are pure, that relates to purity. Elaborate more, because I'm not going to read everything. I want people to actually read this for themselves, but I want you to elaborate more on what your definition of purity is and how it can apply to not just abstaining from sex, but also other areas. So please tell us.
Well, purity ultimately is the absence of anything that will contaminate, defile, or bring about destruction in value, ultimately. So anything that presents, if you take water and you pour Kool-Aid in it, it's no longer just pure water. Now, Kool-Aid might taste good when you add a little sugar to it, but at the end of the day, it's no longer just the purity of what water should be. And so when it comes to our bodies and our temples and our minds and our hearts, we have to be careful on what we allow in. Because though Kool-Aid may taste good, this does not.
Right.
Though having pure relationships and godly friendships might be good. Just allowing yourself to be in a relationship just to say that you're in a relationship, that's very toxic.
Yeah.
When there's no purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that I think purpose is a very key part of purity and remaining pure.
Yeah.
You have to understand the why. Your purpose is your why, right? So the purpose behind purity is the why. Why am I choosing to remain pure in my mind? Because I know that so as a man thinketh, so is he. And I'm going to follow after the way of my heart. So whatever my heart says, well, it didn't just jump into my heart. Yes, we are sinful man, and that is who we are when we were born. However, the things that we allow into our ear gates and our eye gates and what we listen to, it affects us, and it affects the purity of what God desires to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. So purity is not just
It is definitely not just sex.
Yeah, it's not just about sex.
Yeah.
It's really our overall being, everything. What we allow to come into us, what goes out. I love it. I love it. I love it. So there were some other things. Poverty. I think this was the one, because you actually talk about poverty not just being something that has to do with finances. Poverty is a mindset. So even if you could be wealthy and have all the money in the world
And still be bankrupt.
Emotionally. You could even still because you have that mindset of poverty, you are not even able to multiply what you have. You are always having something. You always intaking some kind of form of money, but you can't keep it. So tell me why you felt that this was so important. Or even, we have verses in here. The verse that you give is Proverbs chapter 6, verses 9 through 11. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. That was from the New International Version. All right, so you put this in here. Why did you feel the need to put that in there?
So this one was a funny one, right? So I'm a visual person. So I'm reading this and it's like, how long are you going to lay there and watch somebody come in and steal from you, right? And so the image that I see is a thief. And it doesn't say that they were like robbed at gunpoint or anything like that. It's something that you freely let happen. And so in the book, I basically say it is as though you walked in and out showing, hey, I got this, I got this, I got that. But then you just left the door wide open. You never locked the door or tried to do anything to protect the assets that you already had.
Wow.
And so that you will end up broke financially, obviously, in that instance. But what are the things that we do as far as our gifts and our talents that we are not properly stewarding, that are causing us to be bankrupt, that are causing us to have a poverty mentality as it relates to stewarding our gifts, our talents, and our time.
Wow. I think this is something that everyone needs to get, because there are so many gifted and talented people. And many times we make the mistake of looking to others and seeing like, well, why is it that this person can do this so much better than I can? Or why is it that this person is making it? Well, maybe you need to check and see what type of mindset you have. And if it's a poverty-stricken mindset that's holding you back. And I really do believe, like you said, people need to be good stewards of their gifts and understand that you might be in poverty or in bondage of stewarding your gift. Oh, wow.
And I'll say that one thing that is very important about that stewardship thing. So when you think about the years of the fattened cow and the years of the skinny cow, right? You think of the years of plenty and the years of famine. Well, I might find myself as a person who I'm a good steward over my gifts and my talents, and I try to manage it well. But we have to be very mindful and not beat ourselves up when we find ourselves in a season of famine. This might not be the heyday right now.
Absolutely.
But that does not necessarily mean to quit. Now, I will always recommend self-evaluation. Know where you are at all times. Know where you are in relation to your position with God. How silent is he? Now, we know sometimes he doesn't speak. We know sometimes that's a part of the testing. I'm letting you figure this thing out.
Yeah.
But there are times that we have put on earphones. We've muffled him out, and it's not that he's not speaking. We're just not listening.
Wow. Man, I didn't even think we were going to touch on this.
I wasn't trying to.
You weren't trying to, but you just took us there. And I just think it's so beautiful what you just said is we need to understand that when we're in that season of famine, we should not give up. And when people hit the season of famine, they give up or they think, where is God? But when you look, I'm not sure what chapter it is, but in the book of Ecclesiastes, he said there is chapter 3. There's a season to cry. There's a season to have joy. There's a season of death. There's so many different seasons, and you have to recognize through that self-analysis what season you were in. And if you were in that season of, famine, if you're in the season of famine, you must continue to keep going.
Life is a journey.
Life is a journey, and it is a beautiful journey as long as you embrace that journey, no matter what season you're in. All right, so I want to go to the next chapter, which is chapter 8, and it's called Priceless. And looks like this is one of your favorite chapters. One of your favorites. And I want to read exactly what you say. And you said, as I began writing this chapter and began to lay emphasis on femininity of wisdom, I noticed verse 35 in a light that I'd never seen before. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 35 says, for whoever finds me finds life and receives favor from the Lord. Does this verse sound familiar? Sounds like a foreshadow of another proverb that we will explore in a few chapters. And it's Proverbs chapter 18, verses 22. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. I believe this highlights our role as a woman and a wife. Your favorite. Tell me why that was your favorite.
So that chapter, so again, I read through the book of Proverbs many times before I even knew that there would ever be a book, right? And so I'm reading through, but now, you're looking and you're writing, you're looking and you're reading things through a totally different scope and a lens when you're trying to write something about it. And so you're reading and you keep hearing it talk about wisdom, and wisdom did this and wisdom said this. And as I read it, I realized that every time it said wisdom, it would refer to her, wisdom, as a her or as she. And so I was like, okay, I know I've read this before and I know I knew that, but it took on a totally different tone as I was writing this book. Because as women, we have to understand what it is that we house. And we are influencers, okay? We influence each other. We influence the men in our lives, whether or not they admit to it or not, okay? Sometimes they like to, no, I came up with that on my, no, you didn't.
Yes.
I planted that seed, but that's okay, as long as you're doing what I said. But ultimately, we realize that the voice of wisdom, the influencer, the one that was with God when he painted the stars and he painted the sky, it was the voice of a woman. And that's who we are. Like, we embody that as women. And again, it goes back to the purity of it. And how do I maintain myself as a woman? If I have this amount, if I have this value, because that chapter is called priceless. Something that it's like there is no amount that you could put on this that says, oh yes, this is worth.
Absolutely.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
And so if in chapter 8 it says that wisdom is what you need in order to obtain favor from the Lord, and for it to parallel with chapter 18 and is finding a wife is an avenue by which you obtain favor from the Lord. I just found that parallel between the voice of wisdom being a she and the reference to a wife. When I get to that point in chapter 18, it's more so a call to men to know this is the type of wife that you should seek. And the call to the women is this is the type of woman and wife that you should raise yourself up.
I just had a moment because that was a moment right there, because it was so good. As I was reading, I said, man, I never would have put the 2 and 2 together. And I always tell people, when you read the Word of God, don't speed read. You got to really dissect, because that's like a treasure right there. Who would have known that you could put those two together, that you're receiving favor from the Lord as a, like it says, for whoever finds me finds life and receives favor from the Lord. And then also, as we go into chapter 18, we see the exact same thing before a man who is finding his wife. Beautiful, beautiful. Girl, I love how the Lord just used you to put this together. All right. Now, this was my favorite.
Okay.
I love it, I love it, I love it. Proclaim, chapter 15. All right. I'm just going to highlight this part, and I'm not even going to read all the verses that you put in here, but you said, however, if we don't lay down our attempt to uphold the image of perfection, we will never get to pour into others the way God truly desires us. Now, you go into what you say, when you say, and how you say, and you give all of these verses in the Bible. And I started thinking as I was reading, like, as women, we really, because of the influence that we have, like you said, we have to be very careful in how we say things, when we say it, and what was the other, when you say it. Yeah. All those things are so important. And the book of Proverbs touches very clearly on these things, and you define it very well. I would like for you to define that for some of us who may not have really even taken the time to dig into Proverbs chapter 15.
Yeah. So, proclaim. So anytime you hear proclaim, like I'm making a proclamation, it is an affirmative statement that says, this is it. And it is law, and you can almost take it to the bank, right? Well, again, as women, and, you know, they call us the emotional creature. I have my own theory about that. But that's not what this show is about.
That's another show.
Another
we'll
show.
get there. We will get there.
But What we say, we house wisdom. That's who we are. We are the logical thinkers. We are nurturers, which means we think, we don't just think with our head, we think with our hearts. And so when we say things, we have to be mindful that we're allowing the head and the heart to intertwine. So because I can see logically, well, you should just go do this. Even though I see it that way, I have to also remember to not just think with my heart, but speak from my heart. So it's not just what you say. It's not just when you say it. It's also how you say it. Are you delivering your messages with love in all things?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, that's our call.
And I think what I also took away from this too is even sometimes when you're encouraging people, especially, you might have a girlfriend or there may be a gentleman maybe that you're trying to date and you think it's your job to fix him. But we know that's the Lord's job to fix him. But there's a time. And I actually do want to read this. It's when you say, Proverbs chapter 15, verses 23, it says, everyone enjoys a fitting reply. It is wonderful to say the right thing at the right time. That was from the New Living Translation. I love it because a lot of times when you may see a woman's situation, you can see into it and the Lord has revealed something to you about that situation. It may not be the right time for you to speak on that. And when you do, you should ask the Lord to give you some wisdom. Give you wisdom on how to actually say it. Oh gosh. Anything else you'd like to add to that before we go on and start digging even more deeper into some of the stuff? Let's keep digging. All right. Pride.
I didn't know you were gonna dig like that. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was gonna dig because I literally what I did to as far as like how we were gonna discuss today, as I said, I want to take the really like the good meat. I don't want people on milk. I want them to grow. Like that is really the purpose of dialogue is for women to see this, even men see it and they go, wow, like this is some stuff I've never heard before. And I'm glad that we're dialoguing about it. So pride, we had to touch on it. It says, keep him lifted foremost in all you do. And a true mark that it is God's grace and gifting is that it will bring you before great people. These great people may not wear the name Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, Bishop T.D. Jakes, or the likes, but it may be the great people you encounter daily. It may be the president of your company. It may be the war veteran sitting in McDonald's. You know them and you see them all the time. Take a look around, acknowledge them, and glean from them. You'd be surprised how life-changing one conversation can be. When I read that, I had to look at myself and even think, when I invite people on the show, sometimes you want to get the big names. And I'm like, well, there are great people just like Christen O'Neill, who's definitely getting up there. You know what I mean? Like you're headed to the top. But I think it was so important that you wrote this in the book because it really makes you think like, wow.
How humble am I being?
Yeah.
Humility is the way to the top, right? Pride can only take you so far. And we know that, Scripture says that pride comes before the fall. And so I ultimately, the goal and the desire is not to fall, right? And whatever that looks like in whatever area. There are so many different pieces to pride, right? So pride, A, says from a spiritual perspective, it deals with how you view what God says about you, right? And so you have like pride and then you have like insecurity, and both of them are a horrible imbalance to the perception of God's perception of you.
Yeah.
Pride says I'm God's gift to the world. Insecurity says I'm nothing. And when God says, no, you're a gift to the world. I chose you. I knew you before you were even in your mother's womb. And I sent you to the earth for such a time as this. I went to see Selma and I was like, man, if I was in that day, like, I have no idea. Like I can kind of conceptually think of what I would do. And I'm like, but I'll do what I can in this day because I was placed here in this season for such a time as this.
Yeah.
And so in that time when I was actually writing this, I was working for a very large company, and my job afforded me the opportunity to sit with the CEO of the company. It afforded me the opportunity to sit among all the vice presidents. But if I went to lunch, I would walk across the street to the McDonald's, where there would be homeless people. And sometimes I got a chance to sit there and talk, and they might just come by. Hey, do you have any change? And sometimes I might just say, well, let me see if I have any change. But what's your name? What are you doing? You know, just to provoke conversation.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to feel like I'm above anybody. I'm not. At the end of the day, I'm God's servant. And whatever it is that you desire for me to do, let me be sensitive enough to hear your voice and follow your spirit.
Yeah.
And pride won't let you do that.
No, it won't.
Pride says I want what I want, when I want it, how I want it.
And I think it's also important for anyone, once you actually do pick up a copy of the book, it's important for everyone to realize that becoming a Proverbs 31 woman, you need to remove that pride, because you cannot be a great wife if you're going to keep pride within you. And so we have to really pray against that spirit of pride. And it gets into our relationships that we have with women. It gets into our relationships that we have with colleagues or people that we work with. So I really felt that it was so powerful that you put this inside of the book. And the way you described it, definitely, please, everyone, make sure you read. You have to read this book. It's just amazing. The last thing that I do want to touch on, and this was also one of my favorites, it was chapter 22, Prominent. And I want to read this. It says, as a prominent woman, it is important that you do not neglect the core of who you are. We have seen the growth, and please excuse me how I say this word, we have seen the growth and demise of well-known figures because of their lack of integrity in their position. You do not have to act important to be important. You already have the position and captured the listener's ear. It is now your responsibility to use your prominence to enforce the positive message that is in your heart.
I wrote that.
You wrote that. You did write that. You did write that. You did write that. And it really ministered to me because, you know, we talked about stewarding our gifts. And I think what's so interesting about stewarding our gifts is sometimes we feel that we have to act a certain way, or we have to do certain things, or maybe I need to do what Christen O'Neill is doing in order for me to fulfill the dreams that God has placed in my heart. Right. And the reality of it is God just simply wants you to be the authentic you. Right. You probably don't even remember you put this in this book, girl. I forgot. You forgot. But
well, it sounded good. It sounded good, though. It sounded good.
It was really good. It touched my heart.
And I'll be honest with you. I'm a leader person, right? And I don't necessarily seek out leadership positions. They somehow find me. And a lot of it is because I'm a people person. I enjoy talking to people. I like to laugh and joke and have a good time. Yeah. And that engages people. It draws people in. And so because I do that, people listen to what I have to say. I sometimes think people are crazy for it, but hey, it works. Why not?
It works. It works.
But that was honestly, again, one of those self-evaluations. Like, make sure that within yourself that you know who you are. I know who I'm called to be. I know where I get to walk. And I count myself privileged that I get to do the things that I get to do. Yeah. But it is not my goal to show you that this is what I'm doing. Oh, I am this person, and I have had the privilege to sit and talk and dialogue one-on-one with Jessica. Great. That's good because we know that that's needed. It's important. But at the end of the day, what do you have to say though? Because there is a reason that you're prominent. There's a reason that you've been elevated. There's a reason why people look to you for wisdom or guidance. That's all we really need. It might not be what we want all the time. Sometimes people want to see this elevated person, but that's not necessarily what we always need. We need to hear what's in your heart and why you started doing what you did.
Wow. Well, it's so funny that you asked that because as I was reading this, and I have to read it again because I really think it's important that every woman, if there is anything else that they get from watching dialogue and even seeing all of the things that I myself do and you also, is that they cannot neglect the core of who they are. They cannot neglect it. And the core of who we are is how we minister to people. It's how we bless lives. And when we neglect the core, we have nothing to give. I had to really go back and start asking myself, why am I doing this show? And I said, you know what, God, because I want women to be empowered. I want women to really not neglect the core. I want women to understand that they don't have to look at another woman and desire the things that that other woman has, but they can simply look in their hearts, really look in their hearts, because, you know, it is truly a reflection of God. That is the image that we are created in, and that's all we really need.
But I'll tell you, the beauty of it is being able to look at someone else, you know? But being able to, I can look at you, but I have to be able to shut it off before it turns into a lusting or a coveting after what you have. At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with when you know what's inside of you. There's nothing wrong.
When you know
Right.
what's inside of you.
When you know
what's inside of you, right.
There is nothing wrong with wanting to cultivate that gift and seeing what your gift looks like, not just when it's on display, but when it's been tried a few times.
Yeah.
And so I watch my pastor. I watch what she does, not because I want to be a pastor. Let me make sure that's clear. Should he do that? Whatever, great. Why not? You know, that's not what I'm anyway. But I watch her because I see the type of woman that she is. I see the type of wife that she is, and I see the type of preacher that she is. Now, preaching I will do because I kind of can't help it a little bit. As I see how we talking, and it just turns into a whole little thing.
It turns into that.
It turns into a little, but I watch it from a place of admiration. A, of the gift, yes, but B, okay, God, I see that, and I know that you call me to do that. So help me to be able to do that how you want me to do it.
Great. That's awesome. That's
Right.
really good. That's good. One of my mentors always tells me, Jessica, I don't look for people's flaws. I look for their goods. Because if I see something good in my sister, then I can always go to that sister and say, hey, you know what? Teach me how you did this, and ask God to just begin to manifest that gift in you. And it can happen. It will definitely happen. We're running out of time, and I wish we had more time to sit down and dialogue. We'll definitely have to have you on the show again. But I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for pouring into me. Thank you for pouring into the women who watch. And thank you, everyone who has decided to subscribe and watch Dialogue. This was definitely one of my favorite episodes, and I hope that you enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe. And also be sure to go to your Christen's website. And please share the website with us.
It is my name, Christen F. O'Neal. You'll see how to spell my name, probably down there somewhere.
Yeah, you'll see
Right
that.
there. ChristenFO'Neal.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and hope you enjoy. Until next time, be sure to hit the thumbs up.
Yeah.